In Doc Holliday's first weekly scheduled press conference, he made official what some already knew.
Guys, here we go again, right? It's hard to believe it's upon us, but summer's over and football's began. And I guess the biggest issue, guys, the depth charts have been released. I don't really understand what's all this big deal about depth chart. Hell, Smock's had it, and all you guys have had it in the paper for the last 3 weeks. So I guess it's official. Cato will be our starting quarterback Sunday, and we're looking forward to an exciting game. I'll just take any questions you have and move on.
Coach, talking to Cato, he said he felt like one of his worst practices was that first one when it was closed to the public because he didn't have someone to feed off of. Do you get the sense that he's almost kind of got that gamer mentality when he needs a crowd, an energy to feed off? It might be good to go into the Mountaineer Field for his first start.
Well, I think number one, he's a young guy that's just out of high school. He's probably not old enough to really care what's going on out there in the stadium. But you know, he's a guy that grew up in a tough area. He grew up tough. He's been through a lot of adversity in life, and I think that'll carry over to him as far as the season goes. But he's a mentally tough kid, and I think he'll handle it well.
Does that kind of speak, though, rough life, one place that he enjoyed being in front of the crowd was the football field? Yeah, that's probably an escape for him, and he's always been very successful on that field. And I'm not concerned about Cato playing because I think that's he'll be fine. I don't worry about it.
Talk a little about the matchup of two of the better defensive ends in the country. You got Vinny on your side, and you got Bruce Irvin on the other. Yeah,
Bruce Irvin, you know, Julie Miller also. I mean, he may be the best player, one of the best players in the league. You know, you look at West Virginia's personnel. You know, a year ago they had the best talent in the Big East Conference. The coaches and the media picked them to win the Big East Conference again. They got the best talent again this year. They got probably the two best defensive players in the league, in Irvin and Miller. He's a guy you have to know where he is because he'll create issues for you as far as the passing game's concerned. And you look over on offense, you know, they probably got the two best players on offense in the league with Gino and Tavon Austin, who's an exciting player.
How I guess helpful was it to kind of simulate Irvin and Miller when you have your offensive line is going against a guy like Vinny?
Well, it helps because you have to. You know, we try to go as good on good as much as we possibly can. Of course, in pass rush situations, it's always good on good. But we'll go good on good again. Tuesday's a work day for us, and you know our offensive linemen get to go against Vinny and some other kids that we have there with the defensive front. So it helps. There's no question. The more good on good you can go, the better you're going to be.
West Virginia didn't change much defensively from last year, but obviously the offense has changed greatly. How do you guys go about preparing?
Well, you got to go back to what he's done in the past. I mean, Oklahoma State, Houston. I mean, the one thing I think Coach Holgerson's done a great job of is he's adapted the personnel wherever he's been to his offense. You know, he hadn't tried to put square pegs in round holes. He's taken the personnel that was given to him, and he's done a good job of molding that into his offensive schemes. I'm sure he'll do a great job with that at West Virginia too.
You got to face WVU here last year. What are your thoughts about going back to Morgantown now?
Yeah, it's just this is a different team. You know, we got a lot of young kids. A lot of them have never been to Morgantown, so we'll do a great job this week with preparation and talking about the job at hand and us going up there. I think I'm looking forward to it. I know the kids are looking forward to it, and it should be an exciting game.
What about you personally?
Our job is to do the best we can to prepare to win the football game. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot of thoughts, to be honest.
Coach, Tyler was talking about speaking real highly of how you kind of handled that miss last year, and you kind of put your arm around him right after that game and said, "Hey, we're going to need you down the road." Can you take us back to that moment and how you kind of treated him and told him that it's going to be okay?
I'd rather not take you back to that moment, but kids. There's nobody wanting to make that kick more than Tyler Warner did, and at that point in the game or any time with a kid like that, the best thing you can do is level him up a little bit because at some point during, and the kid came out against. Who was it, Memphis or somebody, or Tulane, I guess it was, and stuck a 44-yarder right there at the end of the half to help us, go win that football game. So, he's a much improved player, and if we get in that situation again, he'll make that kick next time.
You're gonna have a little different perspective of Mountaineer Field this time, right? Visiting locker room, visiting sideline.
I've never been in that visiting locker room before, but it'll be. I mean, you know what though, a locker room's a locker room, and it'll be different, until the ball's kicked off, and at that point, it's all about finding a way to win the game. But I don't worry about that. I can't control it. I'm not going to worry about it. We're just going to do everything we can possibly do to prepare. and make sure we got the most prepared, most invested team we walk on that field on Sunday. That's my only concern.
Coach, will it be tough for you to so many distractions and people coming up and saying, hey, what's this? How are you going to kind of handle the familiarity with that?
I'm not sure how many of them will be saying hey to me, to be honest, but I don't know. I have a lot of friends there. I do, and when you spend the length of time I spent up there, I mean, I've got a lot of really good friends that are still there and still work within that department, and I've got great respect for them and great respect for that university. But for that 3-hour period on Sunday, it's all about doing whatever we can do to win that football game, and that's the only thing that concerns me. It's the only thing that's on my mind right now, and that's the only thing that will be on my mind for the next however many hours it is up until game day, up until that foot hits the ball at 3:30.
You probably spend more time there than anybody, though. How do you simulate that game atmosphere for your players and let them know exactly how it's going to be?
Well, you constantly talk to the kids about, when you go into a situation like that, you got to have great leadership, and you got to be mentally tough as a football team, and you don't simulate it. During practice, I mean, we'll have crowd noise, we'll have all that for all week, so our quarterbacks and our players can focus and concentrate. But excuse me, you don't actually simulate it until you walk into that arena, and the kids have to be able to handle. We got some older kids that played and played in tough arenas, so I have confidence our kids will go in there and play hard and play well.
So you got Bruin here at right guard. Talk a little about him and what he means to that line if he can stay healthy.
Well, I think I'm just happy that Bruin was able to get through the camp, and he's a great kid. And you guys, John Bruin's all about good things in college football, and he brings some leadership and he brings toughness, and just having him in that huddle means a lot to us as a staff and also our football team. So I'm glad he's back, and this will be the first time he's played in a while, so I'm sure he'll be excited.
On those same lines, be able to move CJ out the tackle.
That helps. The important thing is we get our best 5 guys on the field, and some other guys are going to have to go in there and play. Level's going to have to play, and Schooler's going to have to play, and some of those other young guys are going to have to come along and spell those guys a little bit. But it's nice to be able to look out there and see that those first 5 guys that we have out there right now feel pretty good about.
Doc, you might have mentioned this, but with the fact that Cato seemed to handle everything pretty well, obviously went into your decision making, but he seems to have a cool about it, maybe that some freshmen don't have. Is that part of what your thought process was?
Yeah, he does. And you know what? I've got guys on my offensive staff and of course defensive staff that have coached a long time. And Tony Peterson's coached a lot of really good quarterbacks, and Billy Leggs have been involved with some really good offenses, some really good quarterbacks over the years that he's coached. And the one thing that we felt going into this camp is we were going to go in with an open mind, but we were going to start the guy who gives us the best chance to win at the end of the day. And when it's all said and done, and you put all that body of work that Cato put into camp in 2 days and in the last couple of weeks together, he gave us the best chance to go win that football game, and we made that decision to go with him, and I think he'll be fine. Now, I think as coaches we got to be smart with what we do, and we got a group of tailbacks and a group of receivers, and that offensive line is a little more solid than what we were a year ago. That we got to take some pressure off of him by some of those other guys need to step up and make some plays. So we'll do a good job, and Billy and Tony will do a good job with managing Cato and what he does.
When was that decision made, and when did you inform Raheem and AJ?
I informed Cato and him today, this morning at meetings, but that decision's been made for a couple of days.
What are your,
I talked to Cato, and he said, we think up here it's unusual for a high school quarterback. He's seen a 3.35 down in South Florida. Of course, you probably played a 6-man front in Hurricane High many years ago, but
Nobody threw it back then. Buddy James was asking me about reads, and I said, hell, buddy, you ran to 80 times every game. You didn't worry about any quarterbacks making any reads. But he's beyond his years. But you know what? So is Gino. Gino was the same way coming out of high school. They came from similar backgrounds and similar areas. And, Gino came in and played well as a freshman, and we expect Cato to do the same thing.
how many schools down there play 3.35?
I don't know exactly. I mean, they get a few people down there that do that. But, Cato's he's beyond his years, and as far as football sense is concerned, and he'll be fine.
What are your thoughts about Eric starting at tight end after his recruiting process?
Oh, he's starting tight end because he's our best tight end right now. He's the one that's made plays in practice, and the guys that do it out there on that field during practice are the ones going to do it in the game. And those other guys, Gator Hoskins and C.J. Crawford will both play. But Eric has been the most consistent throughout camp and 2 days, and I'm just glad he's with us. I'm glad we're not playing against him. I'm glad he's with us.
How much difference is feeling this time now as opposed to in your first game last year?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think after going through a year, you've been through it one time, and you're a little more comfortable with what you're doing. But I think the excitement of that first game, and getting out there and seeing your team. There comes a time after 2 days in camp and all the preparation, you need to go play. We're at that point. We're tired of practicing, and we need to tee it up and go play. And Sunday coming up, 6 or 7 days, 5 days, whatever it is. I'm anxious for it to get here, to be honest.
How will you handle that extra day?
We'll have 2 Thursdays instead of 1. 2 Thursday practices instead of 1 Thursday practice.
Coach Holgerson's going through this Sunday, but can you explain what that first game is like as a head coach and adjustments and things that you have to go through?
Well, you never know until you go through it. I mean, you think you've got it all figured out, and you do dry runs and do all that. But there's always something comes up in that game you're not quite prepared for, and you just and I'm sure he'll be fine. I mean, he's coached a long time, and I'm sure he'll be fine. But there always will be something at some point that'll come up in a game you haven't thought about or haven't prepared for, and you just got to make that adjustment and go. That's all.
Well, what was your first sort of in-game rude awakening along those lines?
No, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember, to be honest.
Talk a little bit about Tavon Austin, what stress he puts on a defense, and how tough is he to tackle in the open field?
Well, he's an excellent, like I say, he's probably the most exciting player in that league. He's a guy, if he gets the ball in his hands, he can score at any time. He's probably going to catch kickoffs. He's going to get it, I'd say 10 to 12 times as a wide out. And I think the key, they're going to complete some passes. I mean, that's going to happen, but it's important that once they complete them, we get them on the ground, we tackle well. And you just can't let you can't let 5 and 6 yard gains turn into 40 and 50 yard gains. You got to get him on the ground and go back and play again, get your feet in the ground and go play. So, we have to understand where he is at all times and make sure he's accounted for, because he's a very good player.
The offense being run by a freshman, obviously this will be his first battle under fire, but as a coaching staff, and we've heard this from some of the other assistants, you guys have so much more in right now than you had last year at this time, and it seems like your talent level's up. That's got to be a much better feeling than maybe last year when you're going into Ohio State and you're thinking, gosh, do we have the guys to play? Now I think in your mind you do.
Well, I think we have got. I think we're better at the other positions. I know we are. I mean, we got more tailbacks, we got more wideouts. I think our offensive line's much improved, and that should help that quarterback position. At times last year, we had 1 tailback and at times none. I mean, 0 because of whatever. And Dobson and Tay had to play 78 snaps a game because there wasn't anybody else. So at least now we've got some depth. We can run some guys in there, and I think that should help us.
Rip said, he felt like he had 90% of the defense in. He said last year at this time, maybe 40%, and that might have been too much for them because they were still having trouble.
They're so much further ahead. They are. Yeah. Going through one. Somebody asked me what was difference for me was. Well, the difference for me is you've been through it 1 year, but it's even greater for the kids. I mean, now they've heard that not only for 2 springs, but also a full season. And you never know how kids are going to react. You think you have a good handle on your team, and until some type of adversity hits, and then you can really find out about kids. You can really find out about what they're all about. And after going through 1 season, your second time around, you've got a better idea of what needs fixed, who needs fixed, and what you got to do to fix it. And I think we're a lot further ahead as far as that goes. And you know what your kids can do.
With his inaugural season out of the way, Coach Holliday says there shouldn't be many surprises when he heads up to Morgantown on Sunday to face the Mountaineers. For We Are Marshall Today, I'm Jesse Schaefer.